Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here today. I'm, of course, Greg Guy, joined here by Casey. We will be presenting our next iteration of BangHead history. So I'll just go ahead and toss it right over to you, Casey. What are we going to be talking about here this week?
Today we're going to talk about Milk Wars.
What?
Milk Wars.
Milk Wars?
Milk.
Milk? Oh, I definitely thought I heard something else.
But
I was about to be very intrigued.
So why was I interested in the subject to look it up?
That's a good question.
So there's warnings of upcoming food shortages and possible depression-style prices. Milk is basically considered a national commodity. If there's a big storm or there's some kind of natural disaster or something like that, there's three basic things that fly off the shelves real fast. You can guess what they are.
Well, I know one's going to be toilet paper.
Right.
Yeah, I could see milk being another one.
And then the third one is generally eggs.
Eggs.
So
I don't keep eggs in my fridge.
I've actually started. This is a little off subject, but I've started boiling or hard boiling eggs, it just makes it easier in the morning to just pop open some eggs out of the thing and set it out.
I do love scrambled eggs, though.
Right.
That's probably one of my top 3 favorite foods. Right. But I just don't eat them enough.
Right.
I don't eat them a lot. Anyway, yes, that was off topic, but
yeah. But it's not only just used to drink milk. It's also used like sour cream, salad dressings, cheeses.
It's cooking in general.
Right.
We'll say.
And the raising in cost in milk also affects the raising in prices of all different other types of food stuffs. So when I was doing the looking into it, it didn't really go the direction that I was looking for, but this is more along the business side of milk in the early United States.
Okay.
So we'll start off in the 1820s and 30s, and most of this is based in New York, New Jersey area, and Manhattan. 1820s, 1830s, New York was growing exponentially. You could no longer have dairy farms in the city. They were started moving out there, or they had to find other ways of producing milk for the local populace. One of the things that became popular was that the local distilleries would rent out stables, and they would use the mash that was used to process their whiskeys. The leftover mash would be fed to the cows because it was higher in caloric value than the actual cows eating grass.
Really?
Right. It was in the sense that it would produce more milk was good, but the milk that was coming out, because the milks were in pretty filthy conditions, they're eating generally not natural type foods for them.
Yeah. It's probably more like a sour, or
maybe
it has more of a mash kind of taste.
It became a very watery, thin, bluish tinted color milk.
Sounds
disgusting. And you may have heard this term before, swill milk.
I have not heard that term before.
But that's what the people called it.
Swill milk because they were feeding them the leftover mash.
Because the cows were eating the leftover mash and living in bad conditions, basically. Okay. So they're not moving around, getting exercise, being natural cows and producing natural style milk. They also, in order to fix the fact that it was a bluish, very thin style milk, they started trying to mix the milk with different things.
Such as?
This includes chalk and plaster, as well as they attempted other things as well. Needless to say, this is not...
That experiment didn't end well.
This is not a very healthy thing. And children that would drink this from the time of their birth up to the age of 5 really wouldn't live much longer past that point.
Okay.
So basically they're killing kids with swill milk mixed with plaster and chalk.
There you go. You heard it here first.
And I'm sure health-wise it didn't help the rest of the people either.
Yeah. Like I said, it just doesn't sound like a good combination.
Right. So the farmers began moving further outside the city to create a more pure milk. So people knew this. They were starting to catch wind of it. The farmers started moving outside the city, and then they started trying to do a certified pasteurized milk. And pasteurized, you might have heard this name.
Louis Pasteur.
Yeah, Louis Pasteur. I don't know if he created the pasteurization process or if he just
I believe he did.
publicized it and made it famous. I don't know.
I think he did. I also think he patented the process.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that.
So basically, around 1905, the first milk wars began, which was basically a war. I mean, I don't know if you would really call it a war, but they were trying to get rid of all the people that were trying to create this swill milk or non-pasteurized or even just natural fresh milk, which not pasteurized, and trying to sell it. So basically, they certified companies and dealers to be able to sell milk to the population, and if you weren't creating pasteurized or weren't certified, and you were still creating swill milk, then basically it was a fight to try to eliminate that portion.
Do you know who was in charge of this certification process?
I don't know that.
Okay.
So moving on, there was after that there was a second milk wars, and this included famous companies back then. It had so it was Borden's Condensed Milk, Sheffield Farms, and the U.S. Dairy Company. So in the 1930s, basically it was a very hard time. This is the time of the Depression, the Great Depression. As we can say, milk was obviously continuing to be a national commodity even then. And this was not only localized to the New York area. These were famously in Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, the Corn Belt in the Midwest, Houston, St. Louis, Atlanta, Chicago. Basically, the major cities in the United States were all having issues with. Basically, the farmers were having a very difficult time between the farmers, the bottlers, the milk.
Just keeping up with demand, right? Is
Well,
basically what you're saying.
It's not really keeping up with the demand as much as it is trying to make money off the process of selling milk to the population because nobody had the money. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
To purchase the milk at a cost that would be beneficial to the companies, and they are basically all fighting for their percentage of the costs of milk when it's sold. They're saying during this age, milk was a cutthroat business. So all these different segments trying to fight for their little cut. Violent union strikes would break out, causing martial law to be declared. There was multiple union strikes in the city. I mean, even just the workers are trying to get themselves a little cut, because I mean, when nobody has any money, everybody is struggling to survive. I'm sure it's extremely frustrating, not being able to provide for your family.
Well, you go into the mentality of, food, clothing, shelter.
Right.
And then anything left over, then you figure that. So.
Right. So in 1939, federal courts would overturn a New Deal regulatory pricing system for milk. So the big three, those three companies that I named earlier, once they saw this happen, they immediately slashed the prices of milk. So there wasn't a standardized price for milk. Now they're all competing with each other to basically take control of the New York milk market, and it's basically leaving the farmers high and dry, because now they can't. These three milk dealers, they're so big, they sell so much to New York, they basically control the market.
Right.
And the farmers are being forced to basically sell their milk at a price that is below costs for them to make and process, and that. So in 1939, farmers geared up for a very big strike, and they were basically labeled or propaganded to be communist rabble-rousers.
It's funny how you hear that so much.
Right. So by the third day of this strike, they were actually capable of keeping 60% of the milk supplies out of the city of New York. And basically the milk manufacturers basically crumbled.
Yeah, I could see that being a huge problem.
Right. So, and then a new deal was struck with the farmers where they would get an increase in 45% of what they were making prior.
I mean, I hate to draw comparisons, but it almost sounded like the farmers almost unionized at that point in time.
Right. That's basically what it is. Right?
Yeah, okay.
So they basically blocked the trains and kept the roads and kept milk supplies from getting into the city. So they won the battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They won the battle. Do you think that was the end of it?
Oh no, I'm sure not.
All right, I got one more little piece here. As soon as the ink dried, the milk manufacturers basically found a way around it. They stopped centralizing the way they brought milk into the cities. They made it possible to get around any way the unions to be able to block it coming in, and things were basically changing back then.
Well, realistically, all these farmers had to do was up their price. That's it, because they're selling to a company. It's not like that company, owns their farm.
Right.
Probably not yet, anyway. I'm sure that's coming later if you.
I mean, they probably do.
Yeah.
They probably do now. But basically, the manufacturers basically, because it's very difficult to continue to organize unions, to be able to do something at the level of blocking 60% of milk coming into the city, and basically it didn't last very long. It lasted maybe like a couple days, and then the manufacturer went back and said, "No, this is how we're actually doing it." And
right, but at the same point in time, I think it's interesting that okay, yes, we will concede to your concessions,
right,
until we figure out a way to fuck you over.
Right, and it didn't take very long.
Couple days.
Yeah,
there you go.
Just a couple days. So those are the end of those milk wars in those days. The manufacturers basically won the unions won a battle, but at the end of the day, the
Corporation won
manufacturers
the war.
won the wars.
Man.
So it's kind of a depressing story at the end there.
And I mean, and realistically, you can take a lot of comparisons to today's world.
Right.
I would say,
Right.
specific situations anyway. So.
Right.
Yes. Well, I knew very, very little about these milk wars. In fact, I don't even think I've heard that term until you started talking about it here, however many minutes ago.
I honestly was not looking for it. I just kind of ran into it, and that's what I went with.
Either way, yeah, I mean, felt like I learned something, but I feel like I am more informed now. So, I mean, that is the whole concept of history, STEM, and financial.
Right.
So, appreciate you putting that together there, Casey, man. Like I said, I feel like I learned something. Ladies and gentlemen, I am, of course, Greg Guy, and thank you for watching.